some news out there that came out today. I guess there's a report that Jeff Cobb, who, if you've been following Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or New Japan, you're very familiar with, he is finishing up with New Japan. I guess his last match for New Japan will be this Saturday against Tanahashi. And there's lots of speculation that he might be headed to WWE. I think Dave Meltzer even reported that for whatever reason, it didn't seem like Jeff Cobb had a lot of interest in AEW, but I suppose Stanford came calling, and now there's lots of speculation. Will we see him at WrestleMania? And Dave Meltzer says, the only thing I know for sure is that he's not Randy Orton's opponent. Do you believe these stories to be true? Is Jeff Cobb headed to WWE? And if so, would you want to debut him at a WrestleMania show at the Monday after WrestleMania? Will he show up on NXT from Vegas on Tuesday? What would you do with Jeff Cobb in WWE if you had a talent like that fall in your lap?
Well, funny you say, Conrad. What would I do if I had a talent fall in my lap, such as Jeff Cobb? My gut tells me nothing is falling in their lap. If he gave notice, he's been with New Japan a bit. I don't know if you know the exact amount of his length of contract, but Conrad, years ago, you would never, ever dream if a guy was, let's just say, finishing up a contract, 5-6 days before their big event or run of events, because there's all kind of programming on multiple levels. You would never really even consider, oh no, we won't see him. It'll start maybe even a teaser video the day after Mania, the most trafficked day online of the year is the day after WrestleMania. So, do you slide him in there? Conrad, my gut tells me we won't see him. There's so much going on in that. What's the rush to do a guy like Cobb? A hell of a talent, super mobile, it goes without saying. Just kind of plant the seeds, plow the ground. What's your rush? I just don't see him being injected. I think there's a high probability you might lose some of the traction. It's just so hard. I would think that they're gonna take a deep breath and do something post WrestleMania, even a week or so afterwards. I just don't see them rushing into it. But who knows, Conrad? You're asking me what I'm thinking. I have no idea what the powers that be are thinking over there.
It's interesting to think that Jeff Cobb is getting his first WWE break at the age of 42 years old.
Insane.
To me, that shows you just how different than the wrestling business is now than the way it used to be. By the way, I want to be clear. I'm not throwing any shade on Jeff Cobb. I'm a fan of Jeff Cobb's. I'm just saying once upon a time, it would be spoken about in the industry that, hey, if you're thinking you're going to get to WWE at 42, woo, and now it's happening. And granted, some of that is because the business has changed. The decision maker is different, but the schedule is also different.
I think Cobb started different.
Yes, absolutely right. I think Cobb started wrestling back in 2009. And Jeff, you may not know this, but I did some research, and I think this is right. Cobb actually got a tryout at the WWE Performance Center in 2014. So 11 years after he got a tryout at the Performance Center. And think about how many talent have come through there in those 11 years that never made it. Now Cobb is coming in, and perceivably, I don't imagine that he's going straight to the Performance Center. I could be wrong. I have no inside information, but I am pulling for Jeff Cobb. I mean, anytime somebody, fulfills a dream, and that's what it feels like for a lot of guys when they get a WWE contract or an AEW contract, to be a major television wrestler. And I know that he's been on TV with Lucha Underground, and he's had some stints with AEW and Ring of Honor, but to have this opportunity to come back from Japan and be here in America and seemingly, hopefully, knock on wood, get a good payday, I'm pulling for Jeff Cobb. That's exciting news.
Conrad, let me ask you, just because I have been out of the loop, I'll say I've been on the phone. I have not been on social media at all, except for about 20 minutes at the 8:30 hour this morning, Conrad. Do you feel like he's going? Like what I know, like what is the confirmation other than he's finishing up with New Japan? Is there anything else out there? Or is it all rumor and speculation? Said better than this.
WWE has not made a post yet, but he's going to WWE.
Okay. What I was going to say is, here's where I was going with it. Just so there's zero chance in your mind that he could show up at AEW.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and that's fair enough. That's where I was going. Like, why are we so dialed in? Okay, what a journey! 11 years ago, PC. That's
11 years ago. He got a tryout, went and made a name for himself in all over America, all over Mexico, all over Japan.
Yep.
And now he's back 11 years later. And listen, I want to be clear. I'm not throwing shade at 42. I'm 43. I'm just saying, once upon a time, it was, pal, we're going with the youth movement, and it was like, hey, you got to be 25 and you got to be 6'4" and you got to be 275, and all that seemingly is out the window now.
As ironic as it may sound, 11 years ago, he's a 31-year-old man. My gut tells me that he heard something post tryout. We just kind of looked at everything's probably a little old for us. At the NXT.
Even then, 11 years ago.
Yeah, because they didn't take 30-year-old guys.
Yeah.
It's all the mid-20 guys that they wanted to. That whole, interesting.
It's interesting, too, to take a look back, because that's the era where guys like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens were coming off the indies after having incredible runs in Canada, but also in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and maybe most notably Ring of Honor.
Yep.
And in an alternate universe, imagine if Jeff Cobb had been in that same sort of crop with the Claudios and the Sammys and the Kevin Owens. Like, Jeff Cobb could have been right amongst that group, I think, in the eyes of a lot of fans. But hey, better late than never. It's happening.
That's what I'm saying. It's happy for the guy who's kind of his amateur background, but man, there's no doubt. I hate to use this term, paid his dues, because that can be construed in so many different ways in today's world. But my man Jeff Cobb has paid his dues, and good for him. I hope he, like you said, makes a lot of money, but more importantly, I hope he's fulfilled and it's more than he ever dreamed or expected it to be.
I want to be clear. You and I are both big AEW fans, obviously, but I do think that there is something to just all that legacy that exists in the market to having that WWE exposure. Respectfully, if you take a look at guys who maybe were stalwarts in TNA and you look at their dance card sort of post full-time wrestling, and it doesn't feel like it's nearly as filled as guys who were featured regularly on WWE. Now, of course, WWE has a head start on every wrestling promotion under the sun, but I'm thinking about the way, an ODB comes to mind. One of the more iconic characters in TNA history, a hell of a person, a great business, an excellent hustler. Just what a great television character she was.
Oh, boy.
If she had been on WWE programming as long as she was on TNA programming, I mean, her stardom would be at another level right now. And that's not to say that TNA didn't do a good job pushing her. It's just saying, to the mainstream, a lot of folks perceive WWE as being, well, interchangeable with wrestling, a lot like Kleenex and tissues or soda and Coca-Cola, right?
The impressions from a marketing standpoint, that's where, I go back to my Memphis days, and then, and look, I'm really going back in time, but the Memphis days and the ESPN days from Texas, I've been on TV by the grace of God for 30, what is it now? 39 years, Conrad. But the ESPN airings, I know afternoons at 3, but it was still an impression. But when you get into that Attitude Era impressions of prime time, whether it's WCW or WWF, it was just seen so much. And then you, like you're saying, now getting into the stratosphere that you're doubling down with social media, impressions. And when you compare a WWE impression versus a TNA impression, it's definitely not apples to apples.